Hey folks, what's up? Welcome to Earhawks Minis and another episode of Painting 101 WAAAGH. Today we're going to take a look at the first in a series of super easy recipes and techniques for painting orc skin. Alright, for this episode of 3-color skin, we are going to be using these two arms to do our demonstration on. One is primed with a very light gray, one is primed with a black. The reason why I did this is that a lot of people get really hung up on what color primer they should use, and I did this to show that it's not as much of a difference as people are really worried about. The colors we're going to be using for this is a base coat of WAAAGH green, and our lighter color is going to be Scarsnet green, and we're going to be using an Athonian camo shade for the wash. We're also going to be using this card here to demonstrate how layering works in a little bit easier to see way, just in case you're not familiar with layering. And we will be doing one of these in a layering and one of these doing dry brushing. Alright, since we already have our base coat down, that's obviously the first thing you want to do. What we're going to do first for the video is we're going to put down our wash. And this is going to be Athonian camo shade. Nothing really special about this. We're just getting it all over the model and picking up any pooling that happens. We want to get this down into the recesses, but we don't want it to really pile up. If we let it pile up, it's gonna cause some ugly staining. So that's kind of where you want it to be. Just getting into the recesses and not being too much everywhere else. So we're gonna do this on both. Okay, with that wash all dry, let's do the layering one first. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our original base color, the WAAAGH green, and we're going to bring back this base color, avoiding the recesses, and just putting this color onto the raised areas. And since we're going for a tabletop standard here, we don't have to be perfect. We're not doing display models here. We're just trying to get these things on the table quickly. And so I will go through and finish this up, and I'll come back when it is finished. Our next step is to add some of our lighter color to our base color. So we're just going to be adding some of the Scarsnet green into the WAAAGH green. Okay, so here I've added some more WAAAGH green, and what we're really trying to do is get about halfway between these two colors for our mix. So you want to go kind of 50-50-ish. You don't want to go too light yet, but we also want to have some kind of difference between this color and our base color. Okay, so let's go to our card here. Now what we want to do next is we want to basically go over all the areas that we just went over re-establishing our base coat, but we want to make this area that we cover smaller, right? So if we think about this as one of our shapes on our armlets, so pretend that's this part right here, that part of the muscle. We're going to go over that, but we're not going to fill the whole area. We're just going to fill like this much of it. So we're leaving some of our original base color, but we're adding this secondary color into the inside of the shape. And we'll have to probably do a couple times, obviously, because we're putting a lighter color over a darker color, and sometimes it doesn't cover very well. So we're just going to go into these same areas. We're going to add this, but we're going to make sure we leave our original color basically like on the outside of this color. So again, I'll go around and do all that and come back when it's finished. Alright, with that done, you can kind of see what we got going on here, this gradient. It's pretty subtle, but that's kind of what we want. We want to have this transition color between our base tone and our highlight color. So what we have to go on to next is our Scarsnet green. And this was, all of these paints have been thinned down a little bit with some flow aid. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and use our same basic shape here. I'm going to go inside that, sort of like this. So we're going to go over all the spaces we've already gone over, but we're going to leave our other two colors on the outside of this color. Again, using our arm, so in the way. We're just going to go to the center of these shapes. And kind of keeping our light source in mind. We'll spread out at the top of the shoulder here, because that would be getting more light. So basically what we're doing is repeating the same process a few different times and just going into a smaller area each time. This is going to give us a really fast transition. It's not going to win you any awards, but it is going to look good on the table. So I'll go through and finish these same muscles again and come back when that's done. And with that, our layering is finished. It's just that fast. Now, one thing I would recommend is when you do your faces and heads of your orcs, after this step I would probably add in like a sunny skin tone or a lemon yellow or something like that into the Scarsnip green, just to make your faces a little bit brighter than the body. That'll make them stand out a little more. Now this is the extra step I was talking about, and that is to cover everything with a glaze. I like to use this WAAAGH green. If you don't have this, but you do have inks, you can make this. This is actually really easy to make. It's 3 parts green, 2 parts yellow, and about 10 parts water, and just mix that all together if you don't have the Citadel WAAAGH green. You're not going to need very much of this because we're not slopping it on, we're just laying it on like a filter. And this is just going to tie all these colors together. So we're not letting it pool or anything like that, we're just letting it cover everything. So if you do see any pooling anywhere, just go ahead and pull it away. You just want to spread this all over everything that you've just done. Nice thin layer. And with that glaze dry, this is the result we have. Like I said, it's not going to win you any contest, but it will look great on the table. So next we are going to move on to our dry brushing. And this is going to be very similar to the layering, with one exception. And that exception is that it's going to be much, much faster. We're going to get a slightly different result, but it's not going to be too drastically different, just a little bit. We're going to take our WAAAGH green. Instead of brushing our base color back in, we're just going to dry brush it back in. So we're going to do this whole entire process is all going to be with a dry brush. For this one I'm going to use a little bit bigger dry brush just to get this base coat back on. If you're not familiar with dry brushing, basically you just get some paint on your brush and we're going to get the majority of it off just on some paper towel. Now we want to consider the light is going to be coming from the top, obviously, so we're going to try to do our brush strokes from top to bottom. And we do want to be fairly slow and let this build up gradually. We don't want to just mash it on there, as that's going to fill in a lot of spaces that we don't want filled. You can kind of go a little bit side to side if you need to, but generally, stupid cat hair, because of course there is. But generally we want to be going from the top down. So as you can see, this paint is only catching on the raised areas and it's not going into the recesses. Okay. We don't even really need to cut away for this. This process is much faster. We're not even going to clean the brush, we're just going to grab some more paint here. And this is going to be like how we mixed our paints previously. In this case, we're just mixing it in the brush. And you can see here, there's really almost nothing coming off in the paper. And that's exactly what we want. And we're just going to continue brushing from the top down. This is not a technique that I would really recommend if you want to do a nice, like a character model, something that you want to look really good. But if you got to bash out 100 boys, this is kind of the way to go. Okay, and we're going to make sure, try to get everything out of this brush. Actually, no, I'm going to go to a little bit smaller brush for this next part. All right, so this is our Scarsnet green, just by itself. Again, we're going to load up a brush and clean it off. And again, coming from the top down. Again, if you need to go side to side to get some areas, that's totally fine. To be completely honest, I myself am not a huge fan of dry brushing because it gets this kind of chalky finish. As you can see. But there's no denying that it is very fast. And without even cutting away with that, we are actually finished. Our last thing to do again is the glaze if you want to. I still have some out here. We don't even really need to wait because the paint's already dry. And we're just going to cover this whole thing with our glaze color. And if you see any pooling, go ahead and pick it up and let this dry. And with that dried, this is the result we have from the dry brushing. A lot of people do like this chalky look for orc skin because it does look somewhat organic, having these inconsistencies and this little roughness to it. To each their own. Don't let me tell you how to do your skin. If you like that look, that's totally cool. You can see compared to our layered one, we have the same basic look, same basic appearance, same, the colors look mostly the same. The layered one is a little more vibrant, but again, if you do have to mash out tons and tons of boys, dry brushing might be your way to go. Another thing that you can also do with the dry brushing is you can combine dry brushing and layering, so you can do most of your work with the dry brush and then just go in and reinforce some areas that you want to be nice and solid and bright with your layer colors. That's totally something that you can do. There are a lot of ways that you can paint your orc skins. There's lots of different color combinations, there's lots of different techniques. If this is something that you find interesting or you find helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe button to catch all of these Painting WAAAGH videos. If you liked this video, be sure to hit like, it helps out a lot. Another way that you can really help out the channel is to use that Buy Me a Coffee link down in the description. Any money I make from any of this stuff all goes back into the channel to try to make better content for you guys. Thanks for watching this video. I'll be back next week with another video. In the meantime, you can watch some of these over here. And thanks for watching.